Distribution provided by Cloud Sigma, the cloud that adapts to you. Visit cloudsigma.com/thisweekin for a free $200 credit.
Today's episode of This Week in Startups is brought to you by ShareFile from Citrix. Secure file transfer built for business. Visit sharefile.com, click on the microphone, and enter TWiST for a free 30-day trial. And by GoToMeeting. Sign up for GoToMeeting using promo code TWiST to begin your free trial.
Hey everybody, it's This Week in Startups, the program where we learn how to build companies. And what do you need to build a company? You need a great idea, you need a great team, but you need fuel, you need money. This is the episode, the All Ask Jason episode, where we focus on moolah, cash, hundies of millions, money, how to raise money, all the questions you have about getting money to fund your startup. We're going to answer today on This Week in Startups. Stick with us.
That's what it's all about, man. They said money is the root of all evil. What? Funny how it feeds my people. We ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money, and defeat you. Yeah, money is the root of all evil. What? Funny how it feeds my people. Yeah, we ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money, and defeat you.
Hello everybody. It's been a long time since we've done an Ask Jason episode. When we started the show, This Week in Startups, like 4 years ago, we used to do Ask Jason all the time. And what is Ask Jason? It was just people asking me questions. I've run a couple startup companies. You guys know who I am. I am perfect proof that a broken clock is right twice a day. I've been an entrepreneur for my whole life, 20 years. I watched my dad as an entrepreneur suffer through running bars in Brooklyn. And let me tell you, I grew up in a bar. And I learned business from people who were running numbers, dealing drugs, selling booze, scalping tickets. Like, I was on the streets. I learned business from criminals and legitimate entrepreneurs like my dad. But that's how I learned entrepreneurship. I know it's funny. It's crazy. But it's true. It's true. I knew the guy who was the bookie. I was fascinated with the bookie in my dad's bar who was running numbers and how his business worked and the VIG and how he made money no matter who won or lost the giant game. Wait, he wasn't taking one side. He was making money if they won or they lost. I love that. It's just like eBay or PayPal. Like, they win no matter what, right? Transaction fees, all good. Anyway, it's a non sequitur, but sometimes people tell me they like to know my background and why they should listen to me, if at all. Well, there's another reason to listen to me. I built a lot of companies over 20 years. Most, they did okay. But a couple did spectacular. And that's what I learned from my friend Mark Cuban, who's invested in 2 of my companies. Hold on a second. I dropped a name. Let me get it. All right. I got the name back. And Mark told me broken clock is right twice a day. And you only need to be right once. And that's the great thing about entrepreneurs. Most fail. 8 out of 10 fail. And so if 7, 8, even if 9 out of 10 entrepreneurs fail, that is incredibly depressing or completely inspiring. Why? Well, if 7 out of 10 fail, that means you've only got to go 3, 4, 5 times swing of the bat, and you're probably statistically going to hit your home run. But each swing of the bat might mean 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years of your life, and a lot of pain, suffering, and agita. That's why you have to be strategic and you have to think about your startup career, about entrepreneurship. If you're going to do that 10 swings at the bat thing, you actually don't have enough time in life to take 10 swings at the bat. You're probably going to get 3, 4, 5 before you have kids and mortgages and you're out of the startup game. Because it is a young man's game, young person's game. Some people disagree with that, but it is true. It's easier to start a company when you're younger. It's a lot of information there to start the show. This show is the show where you learn how to build startup companies. Long way of saying that. And we are privileged to have done over 346, this is episode 347. We've been privileged to do these 347 episodes and have great talent here like Brandis and Kieran running the show, and Demont selling the ads, and Jason Crude, who is the general manager of Launch and This Week in Startups, have this great team. They get paid salaries. They don't work for me for free. And these microphones don't pay for themselves either. I got news for you. And when we upgrade these cameras to Sony's or Panasonic's or whatever, it's going to cost me like 15 dimes. And that's all made possible by our friends at the partners of the program. The ads are sold out for 6 months at a clip. I'm very proud of that. And one of our partners is ShareFile by Citrix. And we use ShareFile here at This Week in startups, ShareFile is designed for business. With ShareFile, you can send files of almost any size securely, and there's the key word in the sentence, securely. Access those files from any computer or mobile device, i.e. your phone or your iPad. And we use it here to request files from specific folders from our clients. So when we have ads for the show or collateral or logos, we use ShareFile to ask and request our clients to send them to us. They don't need to have a ShareFile account. We just send them a little link. Boom, and they put it into our folder. And then we get an email alert when somebody uploads or downloads those files. So we don't have to remember to check the folder. We just get an alert. Genius. And we can share big files, and we get the audit trail, and we can see what all the users can do on a very granular level. And that's what I love about it is, we can see when somebody opened a file, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And you can visit sharefile.com, click on the radio microphone button, and use the promo code TWiST right here. See radio listeners on the top right. Click here. So you're going to do that. Click that button and use the promo code TWiST, TWiST, this week in startups. No credit card required, 30-day free trial, and you can join the ShareFile TWiST Club by first signing up using ShareFile, using the promo code TWiST. And after you do that, very simple, you're going to send us a request a file link to sharefile@launch.co. Request a file link to sharefile@launch.co, and then we are going to send you, through the magic of ShareFile, a secret episode with the 10 best questions ever asked on the program. Thank you to our friends at ShareFile, at Citrix. Everybody thank at ShareFile on their Twitter handle. So, as promised, and one more piece of housekeeping as we hit the 5-minute mark in the show. The second annual Launch Education and Kids event, festival, whatever, I don't know what we're calling it, is brought to you by Pearson and School Messenger, and it's June 26th and 27th. It's almost sold out. It's at Microsoft's campus in Mountain View, which is a really fancy, beautiful, well-designed, gorgeous space, and I am so privileged to have Microsoft as a friend for decades, and they allow me to use any of their spaces on a global basis anytime I want. What a great, great partnership that is. They're just like, we love launch, we love this big in startups, any way we can help. And so I'm like, yeah, you can help. Give me a space. I'm going to bring 500 people there, 300 people there, whatever it's going to be. Mitch Kapoor is going to do a fireside chat with me. I've been waiting to have Mitch on the program and to at one of the events. 20 companies will be on stage showing the latest exciting stuff. And you can find out more at launchedu.co, launchedu.co. And .co was a big sponsor of the program early on, and so we show loyalty to them by using their domain names. And if you want to come to that launch event, if you're a startup company making a great product or service, just email team@launch.co. If you are a teacher and educator, email team@launch.co. We'll get you some information. If you are a potential sponsor, email team@launch.co. There you go. Just team@launch.co goes to the entire team, everybody who works on the project. And so we have a very open, we want everybody involved. We're like sort of very inclusive. Our first question comes from Rich V. Oh, well, I don't know. Rich V. I'm going to just do that. And Rich V, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay, so now you have a business. It's workforce management for SMBs, payroll, full service HR, employee incentives, employee loans, all that stuff. And it's called Summit. And summithrpayroll.com if people want to check that out. And you have a question for me. Go ahead.
I do. So Summit, we've been in business since 2007. We have about $1 million in current revenue, and we have the opportunity to create a new sister company based on an Australian business model that is coming here and wants to sell us the IP along with support for that business. And it requires, it's a little bit different, it requires an upfront investment. So we need about $200,000. And we're projecting this business is going to be cash positive by month 4. And then year 1, we're going to clear about $375,000. So what I'm looking for, my question is, we're looking for some advice on what direction we should head as far as that $200,000. Should we look at angel investor, a bridge loan, or some other funding sources? And, just based on your experience, we just, really look for if going down the right path from the beginning and more so avoiding going down a path we shouldn't.
Okay, so Summit HR and Payroll, just to recap, has $1 million in revenue, and you've been at it for a year. That's great. Oh, no, started in 2007. You have an opportunity for $200,000, set up a sister company, I guess, a sister product. Would it be a separate entity, or would it be part of this existing entity?
Completely separate entity, yep.
So the management team from Summit HR and Payroll would then work on this entity? Would it be owned by Summit HR and Payroll, or would it be owned by a new cap table of the employees? How does that work?
It would be owned by a new set. So one of the primary people in Summit would be a 50-50 partner with me in the new entity.
All right. So already it's getting confusing because now you have a group of people working on one company, Summit HR and Payroll, and then there's this new co, let's just call it new co for now, that's going to have similar people working on each project, correct?
Only at the beginning. Our goal is to completely separate it out.
Okay. So it's confusing already, which maybe not to you, but it will be confusing to an investor because now, and I've been in this situation myself, where I've had multiple businesses and people are like, well, okay, there's This Week in Startups and you've got Launch over here and you've got Inside.com over here. Which business am I invested in again? I've literally had people say to me like, am I invested in that business or this business? And I'm like, oh my God, this is really problematic for me. It's optics. And then people go, Jason, are you spending 95% of your time on Inside and 5% on Launch, or how much on This Week in Startups? And that's when I started consolidating stuff down. So Launch, This Weekend, that company I shut down because it wasn't really working to have 20 podcasts, but there were 2 that were working, Kevin Pollak's, which is now independent, and This Week in Startups, which is now part of Launch. And I consolidated 2 companies into one. Now I have 2 companies, Launch, which does the event, and This Week in Startups. And then I have Inside.com, which is big. And I still have 2 cap tables. And I've been thinking, hey, maybe I should put those 2 companies together. Just have one company, Inside.com, to rule them all. Because it is confusing. And then every day I got like 2 different teams. And this is where it gets complicated. And you're going to scare investors. It's red flag is basically what I'm saying. So if there's a way to do this business inside of the existing business and make it a unit, that's better. Is that a possibility?
So the difficulty with that is that there is an existing investor in Summit that would not be a part of the new entity. And I don't have any, equity in Summit either. So.
So it's a little bit confusing, but let's just say that you correctly spin it off. And which one are you going to work for?
I'm going to work for the new entity.
Okay, so let's just say you're leaving Summit.
100% full-time.
Yeah, so to keep it simple, you got this new entity. You've left the other one. You're going to let those partners run it. You got this new one here. So how do you raise $200K to do this? You can't use Summit's revenue, correct? That's off the book. So you can't fund it from the profitability of that company.
Correct.
Okay. So, but you're basically looking at is you got a new company that's based on a license from an idea from Australia. And how do you raise that first $200K? The number one thing you would do is if you believe in the idea and you have the $200K, you might invest it yourself because you want to own 100% of the revenue. So for me, when I start things, since I got a bankroll, if it's just 100 or 200, absolutely I just want to fund it myself because I don't want to bring investors on until I have something because I don't want to lose anybody else's money. Are you in that position where you can front the $200K yourself?
I'm not.
Okay, so, and that's typical. So now you gotta take the hat off and put the hat in hand and say, hey, I need some money. How do you get that money? An angel investor is probably the best route, or multiple angel investors. And the way to find those angel investors, AngelList obviously is a great collection of them. But what type of investors is going to be the question here. Now, the original company that wants to license you this idea, are they going to have equity in this new co, or are they just going to get a licensing fee?
They will. They'll have a 25% equity stake, non A shares.
Okay, and so they'll have some common shares or something like that. How much money do they make? Do they make tens of millions of dollars right now?
They are. They're making in Australia. They have about $3 million in revenue.
Oh, okay. So I think first, for them to have a little skin in the game might be a good idea. So I would go to them first and say, hey, if you guys are putting in $50,000 for your 25% and whatever, that starts me at first base. So when I go to the next investors, they know that I've already got 20% or 25% of the round done. Have you talked to them about that possibility?
We have. Yep,
Okay.
and that is a possibility.
Great. Okay, so good. So we're on the same page. So that's step one. You're on first base. You start out saying, hey, I got 25% of the round closed. Then I would look for angel investors who have an affinity, they dig you, the vertical you're in, or the solution, right? And so how do you align that? Well, if they have an affinity for you, it's because you have some pre-existing relationship with them. You've made the money before, you've worked with them, they're your rich uncle, anything like that. If they have an affinity for you, which when Mark Cuban invested in my company, it's like, I like Jason, he's done smart stuff before, we made money before. Yeah, probably invest in his new company, or Matt Coffin or Sky Dayton, or people I've worked with before are going to be likely to fund me again. And so I always look to those people and bring them the idea first. Do you have those kind of people in your Rolodex that you've built credibility with over the years?
Nobody that's ever invested in anything. I mean, certainly some people to go to for sure that I've worked with in business.
Yeah, so that's what you want to do, is go to those people first and say, hey, $10,000 minimum, up to $50,000. If you're interested, here's the vision, and show them the vision. Now, leveling up, being on Angel List and having already 50 of the $200,000 taken care of, it makes that little status bar look like it's pretty good. You do a convertible note. You can do the documents on Angel List, or you can use Y Combinator's. These are like $5,000 documents. You could use an attorney like Scott Walker, who will do deferred payment. It might cost $10,000 to close the round, $10,000, and he'll defer it if and only if you close. So do you have an attorney who's doing deferred fees?
We don't currently, no.
Okay, so you're going to want to call Scott Walker or call any law firm and just say, or get a reference from somebody and say, I think I can make this work. Are you willing to do deferred fees? Because I think this could be very big, and obviously if we do an A round or a real big angel round, I can pay full fare, but I need you to take a flyer. And they probably will, and now that shows hustle to future angel investors. And you say, hey, listen, I've got this deferred thing and I'm doing a convertible note. Convertible note is great because a convertible note is really lightweight. You don't have to make a huge set of docs, and it basically just says, I can raise this money up to a certain max valuation, and people get a discount. And so I think an angel investment from people who have an affinity for the space, and you should research the affinity for the space by this new idea, the sister company, the NewCo. Is it in the space of like HR and that kind of space, or what space is it in?
It is, yeah. It's like HR, coaching, business coaching for small, medium businesses.
Great. So what I would be doing is I would be looking for people who've made money in the past doing that, or something around that. So if somebody was involved in SMBs, small and medium-sized businesses, look for people who 10 years ago, 5 years ago, sold a company that focused on small and medium-sized businesses. That could be somebody like business.com, which sold into that space. It could be somebody like Yelp. So if somebody worked at an organization, it could be Office Max, who knows? But if somebody worked in that space and they are going to start on third base in terms of understanding your idea because they understand small business already. So you want to do that. And what you do is you're not going to them to ask for money. You're going to ask for advice. So what you say is, I need an advisory board for this startup. This is the crazy idea. Can I get 10 minutes of your time? Anywhere, anytime. That's always been my secret is I try to show people in a short email that I have so much passion that I will meet them anywhere, anytime with 12 hours notice. Boom. And it's worked so many times for me where I've said, can I meet you anywhere at any time? Just email me. And boy, I've had people say, sure, meet me on Sunday after my kid's soccer game. Literally, I've had like very important people say that kind of stuff to me early in my career. I said, great, let me have your phone number. Here's my phone number. Text me when you're ready. I'm going to be sitting at the Starbucks 3 blocks away. They text me. I come. It's supposed to be 10 minutes. It turns into 2 hours. Happens all the time to me. So you just send that short email.
Nice.
I've got an idea in the space. Can I get 10 minutes of your time to get your advice on if I should do it and if there's an opportunity here? No mention of money. And I may need an advisor in the future. If you've got 10 minutes to spare, I'll meet you anytime, anywhere. You just tell me. And that works brilliantly for me. And if there were investors in the Australian company, they might be also incented to invest in the U.S. company. So, and the way you can phrase that is to say, out of respect for the people who invested in the Australian company, we're going to keep 1/3 of the round available to those investors. We want to have primarily U.S. investors, but we want to recognize that they contributed to our licensing of this technology and this product. So now what you've done is you've turned you asking them into you giving them an opportunity that has a limit, right? You've created scarcity, which is a big part of raising money, is creating scarcity. Is any of this helpful to you, Rich?
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. And that the advisory board, I like that idea as well, because that's another thing that we are looking at as well. So I like the, 10 minutes of your time kind of thing. So.
And here's the thing. What you're optimizing for right now is the smartest people who are the most connected, who have the most knowledge in the space. You're not optimizing for valuation. You're optimizing for who is the most connected person, who has the deepest knowledge in that space, and who's going to provide the most overall value. Don't optimize early on for valuation. Don't optimize for money. There's plenty of time to do that later. Optimize for brains and network. Who's going to help you the most? Great call. Thank you, Rich. Everybody can check out summithrpayroll.com. Give a little plug there. Next up, we have Hendrik, who is with VLinks.
VLinks.
VLinks. This is a terrible name.
I agree.
VLinks. Listen, whatever amount of money you're raising, the first order of business is to get a domain, a name for a company that we can pronounce. How long have you been doing VLinks?
So we've been doing VLinks for almost 2 years now. And we launched a site to help people manage their personal videos with the entire goal of being, hey, let's get something that people can use, but then focusing on more of a B2B type play, providing our services to sites like a cloud storage type solution or carriers who are trying to provide cloud storage. Because what we do is we help people manage their personal videos by summarizing them, helping them easily upload, and then being able to consume them on any platform, iOS, Android, or the TV.
I love this because I have this problem. Like, I got so many videos, and I love the idea of you making all thumbnails for them and then letting me easily sort them. I'm looking at your iOS app here right now, and although VLinks.
Yeah.
Yeah, VLinks, terrible name.
I agree.
Sorry, I don't mean to harp on
no
it, but
problem. We're actually in the middle of going through the whole changing process.
No
so
problem.
I'd love to get the feedback later
fake it till you
on
make
some
it
main
is
choices.
my rule with branding. If you can't get a great brand, just fake it till you make it. So you have a question? Let's hear it.
Yeah, so obviously VCs have gone through a lot of ups and downs with video type startups. Some have been huge successes like YouTube, but there's obviously been a lot of failures out there in terms of video. So right now, while the tsunami is coming in terms of more people are taking video with their smartphones and Google Glass is coming out and all these other types of applications which are taking advantage of video, there seems to be a little bit of negativity still associated with video just because of VCs being burned. So the question for me is, what is the best approach in terms of how to approach these VCs to look for a Series A investment? Because we've already gone through the seed round last year for almost 500K. But now, and which VCs are the ones which are probably the most open to looking for investments in the video area?
Okay, it's a great question. You raised $500,000 and you got a product to market.
Yep.
What has the traction been like? In other words, for the $500,000 in fuel that you've expended, how far did the rocket get?
So, and like I said before, I mean, we were just trying to get a product out there to see if it grew organically, and our primary focus has been actually on partnerships. So what we've done is grow organically and actually grow 7% per week on a weekly basis since October. Purely organic, no advertising. But what we've done is actually gotten 2 partnership deals done. One with the largest mobile carrier in Europe and one with a pretty large cloud storage solution vendor where we're actually going to be doing revenue sharing type things with their cloud storage solution.
Got it. So you basically, somebody puts all these videos in cloud storage and you make it easy to navigate and to organize the videos
exactly
in the same way that iPhoto does for photos.
Exactly. And that's what people have really bought into it, and that's why we were able to make those 2 revenue sharing deals.
Okay. So it's very clear that there's a ridiculous trend going on video creation and consumption. So good on you for that. I just on my screen here, I just have mobile internet traffic is going through the roof because of video. And I can tell you as a YouTube partner, and we have a bunch of shows like Wellcast or MMA Surge, that we're seeing tremendous viewership on mobile phones because of LTE, because of iPads, because of the Note 2, because of the iPhone 5. People love to watch short videos on their phones. People love to take videos, Vine, etc. So I think you're in the right space. And you've done what a lot of consumer products do, which is they start with a consumer product and then they flip to enterprise, because the consumer, your chances of hitting with a consumer app are 1 in 100. Let me just state
I'd
that
love to
one
be
more time.
Instagram, but the chances of that happening are very small.
Correct. It's 1 in 100 to make a consumer product work. Now, if you get to business or enterprise, it's 1 in 5, maybe 1 in 10. You're going to have some level of success. Look, you already have 2 potential deals because you can listen to clients who have a big paycheck, and all you have to do is get 1 or 2 a year to say yes, and the business looks pretty good, right? Now, that doesn't mean the business is going to scale infinitely, but it's a sign of a pulse, and it means for angel investors, you're not going to go out of business, or you're not going to go out of business immediately if you have some of that service revenue. What it also means is there could be a cap to your exit because it's not going to be Instagram, it's not going to be Facebook. But it could be Yammer, it could be Dropbox. I mean, these are pretty big things, right? It could be Box.net or just Box, I guess they got the .com now. So I think you're in the right space. I think going enterprise is a great idea. I don't know enough about the software, but in terms of who is going to be willing to fund, that's a critical question. Who would be willing to fund somebody who enables providers to upsell their users on video management? And I think somebody who's worked with carriers or handsets before and had a good outcome is a pretty interesting way to do it. Now, the handset people are also a good way to do it, is to go strategic. Samsung has opened an innovation center, or they're working on an innovation center on University Boulevard in University Ave in Palo Alto, where the old Barnes and
talking
Noble
to Brandon
was.
Kim. He's great.
Yeah. So for me, you get Samsung, holy cow. Or even SK Telecom, talk about another Korean company. You get someone like SK Telecom to come on board, or you get Nokia, or you get Microsoft, or any of those strategics to put a little bit of money in. Although VCs might complain about that, if you get the term sheet from them or you get $250,000 from them, that's going to motivate VCs to get involved. So that's a good way, is to play the strategic interest against the VC. So if the VC sees that Samsung's willing to put $250,000 in, or Microsoft or Nokia is willing to put $500,000 in, they're going to go, wait a second. If they'll put $500,000 in now to help prove this out, well, wait, what if we prove it out and then add 2 zeros and sell it to them for $50 million or $500 million or $5 billion, which is their druthers, right? So it's just like a high stakes poker game. You know, the Samsung raises, and then maybe Sequoia or Kleiner or Excel or somebody else re-raises and says, hey, I want to take this pot for myself. If you don't understand a poker metaphor, I cannot help you.
Love poker.
There you go. So you get the idea. Somebody's coming over the top. 3-bet.
So essentially, you're doing a game theory type analysis here, where we're trying to leverage one off the other, and that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I think the strategics are going to be very interested in this, and so you could get a couple of strategics buzzing, and then they're going to start thinking about buying you, et cetera, and that conversation is going to start. And then when you go to the VCs, you say, listen, we could sell this business today. We could raise money from strategics. I have a big vision. I believe that there's going to be an entire software suite in the cloud for managing and handling video. We'd like it to work across all of these different systems. We are good at product. You can see we built a 7 out of 10. Our new product's an 8 out of 10. We're going to get to 9 and 10 out of 10 because we have the team to do it. And we're very much, and a lot of the risk has been taken out because we already have a team. The $500,000 in jet fuel that we burned and is gone is actually a good thing, because we got a team that can build a 7 or an 8 product. You can rate it yourself. We've got an office space. We've got 2 clients, and we know what the market likes, and we've got a little bit of growth. So with your money, we're going to take the 7 out of 10, and we're going to quickly get it to an 8 out of 10, and then we're going to really grind it out to get to an 8.5, 9 out of 10 in terms of a product, and then we're going to scale the revenue. It's a good story. It's a really good story without getting into the product too much. So that would be my approach. Get the strategics on board, then go to the VCs. Now, there's also the possibility of just going straight to the VCs and showing them the vision and where it's going. When you have the challenge is when you have a product in the market today, you've heard a lot about the Series A crunch, which is there's many small startups vying for a small number of slots in the venture capital world, right? So AngelList and Open Angel Forum and the Launch Conference and Y Combinator and Techstars and Founders Institute has made it so easy to start. But you need to get that A round, and that's hard because the VCs have so much to choose from, and what they're going to choose is traction. And you may not have consumer traction right now, even at 7% week over week. So then you're going to have to choose, if you really want to get a VC, do you want to prove enterprise traction, or do you want to prove consumer traction? That's a question.
I mean, right now we're counting on the enterprise traction to essentially get some VCs interested in what we're doing, because if I could name the names, I would, but they're pretty big. I mean, like I said, one of the largest ones in Europe and a pretty big mobile cloud storage vendor here in the San Francisco area.
Did you get any of them closed, or they're close to closing?
No, they're closed. I mean, we're
great.
working on the integration stuff right now. I mean, it's going to be Q3 before we launch, but we're working on the integration stuff right now.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that you're golden then. What you want to probably do is show that you have a pipeline. And you've identified 15 more targets that you could get next year. So you can go 2 to 17 or 2 to 10, let's say, and that you can show that revenue ramp. And you can look at the revenue ramp of enterprise companies, whatever, Zendesk, Evernote, Yammer, et cetera. And it's all the same. It's like, 3 million, 7 million, 21 million, 50 million. It's just like, it's almost like clockwork. So you should really start looking at that revenue ramp. And again, with our previous caller, asking for advice from people who've been to the enterprise show, in video or not, is a good idea. So I would be looking at Brad from Ustream, who's made a really great service business, and I would ping Brad. You can tell him I sent you. You were on the show. You can send him a link to the show. But Brad from Ustream has a great has an okay consumer business, but I suspect that the business is really the enterprise side. Livestream as well has a great business. TriCaster, maybe not anymore, but it did in that space. So I would start curating that list of CEOs and founders, maybe even co-founders who are no longer there, to again be advisors and to ask them for advice, get money, ask for money, get advice. So go out, get those people as your constituents. You are optimizing for attention. Do you have an advisor board set up of these kind of people yet?
Not of the key people in that particular area. We did bring on an advisor board with some other key skills that we needed.
So I would start thinking about who are the people who are going to level you up, make you a better CEO founder, and start giving them a quarter point or 35 basis points, 50 basis points, 10 basis points, whatever it takes. I don't know the valuation. But if you get a couple of those on board and you say, we're just going to have a quarterly in-person meeting. So basically it's 4 lunches a year, or it's 2 in-person lunches and 2 phone calls, one-on-one phone calls and 2 group lunches. People want to be involved in something that's growing and that's fun. And it sounds like you have that. Hendrik.
Yep. Thank you.
Congratulations. Good job.
Appreciate the advice. That's good.
Yeah. Any follow-up questions? Okay. All right. Listen, what you're seeing here on this program is the power of GoToMeeting. Meeting is believing. Go check out gotomeeting.com, and you will be able to host your own online meetings with coworkers, clients on the go or in their offices or at home. Launch and join meetings from anywhere using your computer, smartphone, or tablet. I've done it. I've had multiple lines going, and I do this upstairs all the time here at my office in Culver City, where I'll have my big screen TV logged in and I'll have my iPad logged in. And I might show something going on my iPad, or I might be using my iPad for video and pulling something on the desktop. Anyway, you can have multiple people logged in and it works flawlessly. The number one thing I need in meeting software is reliability, because I want my meetings to start on time and I want them to be technically flawless. How many times have you been on a meeting and it's not working? And people don't know how to make it work. Well, you know what? I've never had that experience with GoToMeeting, unless somebody forgets to bring a headset or something like that. And even that's pretty surmountable now with the decent cameras that come with most computers and decent microphones that are built in. But even still, there is no excuse for a meeting to start late. There's no excuse for technical problems. That's why I've used GoToMeeting for years, and I'm very lucky to have them as a partner on the program. You can screen share amongst people. So just the other day, I was showing somebody inside.com who I was maybe going to acqui-hire their company, and I was like, okay, you show me your work. I handed them the presentation. They finished. I said, let me take back the presentation. Now I'm going to show you my mock-ups under FriendDA. Don't tell anybody what I'm doing with inside.com. I showed them. They're like, oh my God, that's incredible. When can we come? We're going to fly in. We want you to acqui-hire our team. We want to work on this together. And I did 4 or 5 meetings around this acqui-hire kind of thing that I've been thinking about doing for Inside to just, triple the size of my team on the tech side. And I did it all through GoToMeeting. And it worked flawlessly. And it costs it's so affordable. New features you can present on your iPad. Not just attend, you can present on your iPad. And that's just awesome. Beautiful. And that just shows you, it's another thing about software as a service. When somebody is focused on something like GoToMeeting is on meetings, They do all the little things that you think they might launch. They just launch them. You don't have to like pester them and say like, oh, can you get HD going? I have an HD camera now. It's like, no, they just tell you. Oh, the HD is done. It's done. So visit GoToMeeting, click on the Try It Free button, and use the promo code TWiST. That's right. Go to GoToMeeting, click the Try It Free button, and you know what to do. Use the promo code TWiST. GoToMeeting, HD Faces, meeting is believing. I love this product. Get a free 30-day trial. Go to GoToMeeting.com and thank at GoToMeeting. A lot of you out there have been using the product based on my recommendation, and I do appreciate that. Okay, now we're going to do another interesting couple of questions here. And Kieran, you have some sort of a game. This is sort of a game. Explain the game.
All right, Jason. So for our special fundraising
Wow, I like that
episode-
Kieran voice. I
Don't you like that? Isn't that lovely?
That's a great, look at that radio voice.
All right.
Now you're getting into the NPR voice.
I am
Today on
inspired.
All Things Considered, we go to a gun control specialist in South Central who is teaching students how to mediate their problems. It's like, keep going. Okay.
All right. So I thought it would be fun if we had a question from someone you might know and somebody you know answering that question. But we're going to compare answers. So our first case is Sarah Lacey of Pando Daily.
Okay.
She was talking with Drew Houston of Dropbox.
Okay.
a
He
couple
launched
months
at the
ago.
first year of Launch Festival.
That's right.
Good friend of mine.
And so Sarah had a question.
Sequoia Company.
Yes. Sarah had a question for Drew, and we're going to cue that up right now.
All right.
What's
Here we
been
go.
your philosophy of raising money and how important the valuation is?
Okay. So philosophy of raising money, and I know Drew, and how important is the valuation? Okay. I got to handicap this. I'm going to think out loud. This is not what I do at a poker game. At a poker game, I'm processing this stuff in my head. So this is on stage being asked by Sarah Lacey. So that contributes to his answer. Because if it was just me and him shooting the sugar at a bar at an Allen Company conference at midnight, that's a different answer than on stage with Sarah Lacey. I'm not saying that Drew is not going to be completely honest. But what people say on stage and what people say after 2 or 3 Macallan 18s with 2 ice cubes, opening them up, it's quite delicious, is going to be different. So, based on the fact that this is public, I think that he's going to say you don't optimize for valuation. You want to have the best investors who have a proven track record, who are in it for the long term, and who you want to spend time with. That's what I think he would say. And I think that's true. But I also think that any self-respecting entrepreneur wants to get the best valuation they can. So his answer, and I have not seen this, might be something along the lines of, well, of course you want to get the best valuation you can, but you don't want to over-optimize for valuation. You want to optimize for having the best investor who is going to provide the most value and who is in it for the long term. Play the answer. I like this game.
It was all like opportunistic. We didn't actually need money, so we were already profitable, and we wanted a reasonably high valuation for sure, but at the same time, you don't want to go overboard because you can see what happens when people go overboard. It's like you might be able to persuade some people to give you a number up here, but if your business only deserves like here, like eventually, chances are you'll have to sort of account for that one way or another. And even if you like make it through and grow into the valuation, you're still taking a big risk in case like, okay, if you need money in the future or these other things, you don't want the value of your company to decrease because that can create all this thrashing of like, oh my God, is our company doing okay? Like all these things. So that's actually pretty straightforward. I mean, it's a negotiation like anything else. And how do you get a high valuation? You like build something good.
Okay. I didn't exactly nail that one. I think he made a good point. I don't think I nailed that at all. But I think he made a good point in like you don't want to oversell because you are going to if you get caught in that valuation trap, it could become a problem. So I think it's a good answer on his part.
Well, and also he said make a great product.
Yeah, I mean that's the key to everything. I mean, you could sell the promise of something, and I've done that, right? I mean, I'm pretty widely known that I got a $100 million valuation before I even launched Mahalo because people are like, this is a brilliant idea. If this works, it's a multi-billion-dollar idea. Listen, it didn't work. And so that put me in a position of like, okay, what now? And what now is, hey, I got a lot of money in the bank and I can try a couple different ideas. And listen, I think it's all going to work out fine with Inside.com and I've got plenty of runway. But it does, even today, when I want to go raise money and people are like, Insight is a great idea. Can I put money in? I'm like, nah, I can't really raise money from you because I've got to spend another year catching up to the $100 million valuation because maybe my company's worth $50 million right now, or my idea and my execution today is worth 30, 40, 50 million. I need another year to catch up. So there are people who I'd love to have invest, but I really can't take their money right now. So there is something to that, but it's not as dire as he makes it out to be, I don't think, because it's not like having a boatload of cash and not having diluted yourself is a bad thing. I'm sitting here feeling pretty smart. I'm still in a good position. I can still I got multiple swings at the bat, and I get to play for the long term. So I think this is a fun game. I like it. It also is like this makes me up my game. Go ahead, Kieran, give us another one.
All right.
I like this game.
Next up, we have Kevin Rose.
Oh, good friend of mine.
Asking Ben Horowitz of Andreessen Horowitz a question.
Another good friend of mine. Great. Here we go.
Any first-time kind of pitch mistakes that people make where you're just like, they're not getting to the product, they're putting too much data up front, projecting too far out?
Pitch mistakes is the question here, right, Karen?
That's correct. What are some common first-time pitch mistakes?
Well, you got Kevin answering the question.
Or Ben answering.
I know, but Kevin gave a couple of examples there that are good examples. So, pitch mistakes people make. I got to think about Ben. Because Ben is, let's think this through. Ben is at Andreessen Horowitz. He is a serial CEO who was Mark Andreessen's partner on the cloud startup they did and they sold. And he went through some really dark days. He's raised a spectacular amount of money for Andreessen Horowitz and for startups before that. But he's also starts with gangster rap at the start of every blog post he does, so he is a little aggressive and blunt, right? So he's going to give a blunt answer. I think for me, not getting to the product is a cardinal sin, right? Because I think the product speaks. So I think he's going to agree with Kevin on that, and Kevin sort of said that, you got to show the product, and the product's got to be great. So going in when you just have an idea, he might sort of mention that sort of something along the vein of, make sure you have a great product when you go in there. Number two, I think he's going to mention understanding your market and your customer really well, because that shows a thoroughness. And I know Mark Cuban cares about that as well. He wants to make sure you have your ducks in a row. And I think that Ben is sort of like that. I know I'm like that. If I ask you questions about potential competitors or people who are doing what you're doing and you don't know them, so if I was asking you about, let's say I had Space Monkey, and I'm asking Space Monkey, I'm taking a pitch from Space Monkey. I said, well, how does this relate to what Dropbox is doing and BitTorrent is doing with their cloud storage and Dropbox? And he says, well, I'm not aware of Dropbox or, that BitTorrent has something. It's like, what? You don't know your own market? Or how many customers does Dropbox have? So I think, number one, he's going to say, don't go with an idea. Or I think he's going to mention something about having a really tight product and really leading with product. Number two, I think understanding your market and your customer really well is going to be his other theme. And I'm going to just take a flyer here on number three. I think not dissing competitors or people who are already successful and talking about everything that's wrong with that product. And not showing enough passion. I'll just add that as my fourth. Go, Kieran. Let's see what he said.
Yeah, well, to me, the big thing on pitches is the big mistake people make is they try to appeal too much to the venture capitalists. So and that'll drive us crazy because it's a little bit of a sign of anti-courage. So they'll put a plan in, and they'll be, okay, here's our plan for the next 2 years, and they'll have their financial plan. And I'll be like, well, if everything you told me before is true, then isn't this like a plan to fail? Because if you look at the market size and you look at the product and when it's going to hit and so forth, if all that's true, then this plan is like a tenth the size of what it should be. And they're like, yeah, but we thought you wanted to hear this because VCs like conservatism. And I'm like, well, the fact that you care what I like makes me not like you. And that's kind of, so that's the biggest mistake. Now, that may not be a mistake with some other VCs, but for me, because courage is such an important thing, anything that shows a lack of conviction or courage or belief in what you're doing is what always ends up worrying me.
Well, I missed that as well.
Hey, Jason, this is a tough game. You got to up it for the next time.
Well, I think it's a tough game because there's some of these answers are like personal preference, right? Like, so that's his thing. He doesn't like people pitching to him, kind of a thing. But
courage, though, he's very particular. He wants people to be courageous. Stand by what you believe.
I can understand that conviction, passion. I get that. And there's many things you can do wrong in a pitch. So, but I like the game.
All
Okay.
Right, we have one more. It's actually a question on Quora.
Oh, okay. Here we go.
So we're going to show you the question.
Okay, show me the question. Are you going to read it, or am I going to?
I'll read it for you. When negotiating a VC
more NPR voice.
When negotiating a VC/PE investment into your business, under what circumstances could it make sense to disclose to the prospective investor your expected valuation?
Okay. When negotiating to a venture capitalist or PE, private equity, investment into your business, under what circumstances could it make sense to disclose to this prospective investor your expected valuation? I wouldn't put that in a pitch. I think that's a discussion that happens in person when the person has decided that they want to invest. So you wait. It shouldn't be in a perspective.
Well, they're talking about negotiating, so I assumes that there's some kind of conversation happening.
Right. So number one, I don't think you put that in like a pitch document. I think what you want to get is you ask the investor, or the investor tells you they're interested. So you could query the investor, are you interested in pursuing this opportunity? We think that you would be a great partner. If they say yes or no. If they say maybe, they need more proof points, then you're just going to say, okay, we'll come back to you. If they say maybe, say, well, what would you need to see in order for this to work? What do you think is the next milestone for us? Because maybe we'll just come back in 6 months with that milestone completed, or we'll come back whenever that milestone's completed. So you want to get a definitive yes, no, and if it's a maybe, what is the maybe? Like, what's going on here with the maybe? But most professional people are very quick, like Andreessen Horowitz and Sequoia, they're going to give you a quick yes or no. Now, when they say yes, I don't like negotiating with myself. So I would say, well, what do you think is a fair valuation for where we're at? Now, if they're savvy, are going to say, well, we want to know what you think because we want you to feel comfortable with it. And in which case, I would take whatever I think and I would add 25% to it or 50% to it and try a little higher. And I think that happens after they've really critically said that they're interested. And you've said, what do you think would be the proper valuation? And they've said very clearly they don't want to put that out there. Now, you could also get term sheets from other people. So if you had 5 people interested, you could say, we're looking for people to give us a term sheet. So we would like you, if you are sincerely interested, to make us an offer. And now if you have 4 or 5 people interested, then you could run that auction style. Now, if you don't have the leverage. In which case you could say to the person, after they've said, we're interested in what you want, you could just say, well, I think $12 million is a reasonable valuation, $3 million for 30% of the business, whatever it is, $4 million for, a third of the business, whatever it is that makes you comfortable, $3 million for 25% of the business, whatever it is. And that's how I would negotiate it. Is that a good answer?
Well, let's see what the top rated answer is right now on Quora.
Okay.
It's a pretty long one. You typically tell them right away in the first meeting how much money you are raising. It is then easy for them to back out from that number what you expect your valuation to be. Mm-hmm. For example, you might tell them you want to raise about $5 million. Then they know you are expecting a post-money valuation of around $15 to $25 million, given that most early rounds are structured such that the investors can own anywhere from 20 to 35%.
Yeah, that's a good answer. I mean, I think starting with the amount of money is a good idea. Okay.
Right. And continues, the negotiation then begins. VCs are sensitive to what percentage of the company they can own. So you often end up negotiating both the valuation and the amount of the raise. If the valuation goes up, investors will push to put more in so they can maintain their percentage ownership.
Yeah, I mean, basically, they all want to own 30%, which is what I said. They're going to want a third. So, I mean, you are optimizing for that. And I think being reasonable, there's a lot of market data out there now that there didn't used to be. I mean, you can really figure this out by looking at what's been announced, what's on Crunchbase, what's on Venture Source. There's a bunch of people out there. You can just talk to other entrepreneurs and look in the space, and you get the VCs know what valuations the other companies went at, so you're going to know. Okay, next.
Okay, so we had told everyone that they could call into the show.
Okay, yeah, we're going to do live office hours right now. This could be any question, and these questions may or may not be included in the tail end of this episode or other episodes, correct?
Correct.
Got it.
So as it turns out, people were more comfortable asking questions in the chat room than they were calling in. So I have a great one for you from David Preston. And David is the CEO of Blazing Point Solutions. That's blazingpoint.com, if you want to take a look.
Wait. I'm going to blazingpointsolutions.com?
Blazingpoint.com.
Oh, Blazing Point. Okay. Okay, I'm pulling that up. What's the question? Do you have the question written out so do we have a slide for that, or are we just going to read it?
He just gave it to me over the chat room.
Okay, go ahead.
So he asks, what is the best way to attract or approach potential investors if your startup is not one of the typical startup hotbed locations?
Oh, move. Next question. No, honestly, I mean, yes, that's like, I live in a town where there's no pretty girls. How do I get a pretty girl? You move to New York, where all the pretty girls are, or Los Angeles. I mean, if you want to be taken seriously, be in a serious city where that is entrepreneur friendly, where the VCs are, where they don't have to take a flight. And if they do have to take a flight, you got to keep it to an hour. This is what people in Europe have learned over and over and over again. The chances of building a great company in Europe are a tenth of that in the United States, in the 2 or 3 or 4 major cities where you can do this, which is the Bay Area, New York, Boston, Los Angeles, Austin, in that order.
Chicago?
No.
Except for Groupon.
Yeah, it's Chicago. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I think it's hard in Chicago. I don't think nobody's flying to Chicago, right? So if you're basically, there's only a handful of investors there. They're going to be kind of dorky. The investors there are going to be grinding you down on valuation. They're going to be not bold. They're going to be playing on their heels. They're going to be playing not to win. Whereas if you're in Boston, New York, LA, or San Francisco, Bay Area, the aggressiveness of the investment community is going to be higher because they've had better returns. So in New York and the Bay Area, you're seeing spectacular returns. In Boston and Los Angeles, you've seen solid returns, and in Chicago, you've seen no returns. So people are cash rich right now. Wherever the big exits are, wherever those big companies are, that's where the money is going to be. And the VCs, like any good gambler, if they have a big stack of chips because they have won a bunch of pots, they're going to want to redeploy that capital. They're going to want to make more money. Mark Andreessen and Ben Horowitz made a ton of money. Then they launched a VC firm and got raise like $1.5 billion fund. And they bought Skype and they invested all that. And they're like, let's raise more billions of dollars. And there are more billions of dollars. And then they're hiring 100 people to do marketing and PR and human resources. I mean, it's never enough. If you're a winner, like Andreessen Horowitz or Sequoia or Benchmark or Excel or Chamath at Social Capital, these people, Charles River, they're relentless. They're not going to stop. They made money. They're going to keep going. They like it. They're in it. They like the action. Now, if you're in another city where you haven't made money and you're kind of like, I might not be able to raise my fund, you're going to just get into that loser conservative mindset. And that's the loser conservative mindset is what I think of when I think of Chicago. No offense.
All right.
And you got to just get at you have to take your career seriously. You have to take your career seriously. Now, if you're a baller and you've got much of success and Andrew Mason's in Chicago, yeah, people are going to fly to him. He's Andrew Mason. He created Groupon. His next idea is going to be good too. So sure, they're going to come there. Or if you're Jason Calacanis in Los Angeles, yeah, maybe Roloff will take the flight down here. Maybe he won't. But, even with me, I had to lobby Sequoia to invest in a company down here. And they had GameSpy down here and they had Green Dot and they had a bunch of others. But, you have to, even for somebody with my reputation, it was hard.
So David is based in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Oh,
particular
God
thoughts
almighty.
On that location?
Oh, God almighty. Where?
Charlotte, North Carolina.
That's somewhere between Florida and New York?
Well, Charlotte is the headquarters of Bank of America.
What? Who cares?
Who cares? Okay.
Bank of America overcharging me for ATM fees? Nobody cares about Bank of America. Nobody cares about North Carolina, South Carolina, Atlanta. None of those places matter in terms of startups. Get out of Dodge. I had this discussion with Rob May from Backupify, and he went to Boston. He was not getting taken seriously with Backupify. He went to Boston, and people threw money at him. His idea, with a bunch of dopey investors, wherever he was in the South, I can't remember if it was Atlanta or somewhere, can't remember. Somebody look it up. Then all of a sudden he's in Boston. He's hot sugar. I mean, actually, Boulder is an example of a place where it actually works. Next question. Good question. I like it.
All right, and the other question I have from the chat room, another person who would prefer me to ask it. His screen name is Jack Jameson 3.
Okay.
And he hasn't told me what company he's from.
No
He
problem.
just says, are you leery about a CEO that is not leading the discussion / doing most of the pitch? Would that prevent you from investing in a company where the CEO is not great at presentation type activity?
Yeah, that's a big red flag for me. I mean, listen, I understand that introverts are changing the world, and there are introverts out there who have a lot to contribute. But not being able to passionately present your idea and being like Asperger's about it maybe is sort of what they're getting at, or being nervous. I mean, you have to get past that. You have to be able to, in a small setting or a big setting, get on stage and say, hey, we're going to change the world, and here's how. It's not easy for everybody. But trust me, I know people like this who they might be a little introverted socially, but when they get on that stage and they start talking about their product and what they want to make to change the world, they light up. They become extroverts all of a sudden. They can't shut up about their product, but then they become quiet and considered when they, are in the boardroom or whatever. That's okay. But you need to, when you're at least talking about your product, be able to muster some passion. If you can't get in there and you're socially awkward, and you need to get over it. And that's something you got to address, because what that's going to signal to me is, well, when you have stuff going on at your company and you need to lead your company, if you can't lead your company in a VC discussion or an angel pitch, how are you going to lead them with the press? How are you going to lead them, when people have a problem at the office and you got one group of people who disagree with another group of people and they're both brilliant and they're both right? It happens sometimes, right? Like two different groups disagree about how to get to America. One says we should go east, one says west. And the truth is you can go both ways. You can go one way and you wind up in California, one way you wind up in Massachusetts. Both ways work. It's a challenge. And so
does that mean that person maybe shouldn't be CEO?
Yeah, I mean, you could say that. You could say that, sure. They could become like a chief product officer or something, and they could hire a professional CEO who can get out there and crush it. But I think you can get over that, and I think you just got to get a good coach. Maybe you got to get a therapist if it's like there's some defect where something happened in your childhood that made you scared of speaking in front of people. But it is something that's very surmountable, and I would encourage, because we've seen it in the Launch Festival in TechCrunch 50 before that. For 6 years, we'd have some people who come in and they were awkward. In fact, Drew from Dropbox was not, I'm not going to say he's awkward, but he wasn't a great presenter. And by the time he got on stage, he was a solid presenter. And today, he's great. He's awesome. And you saw him on stage. He's just eloquent, and he's a great leader, and he's got a great team, and everybody respects him. But when he started, I remember coaching him where he couldn't, he couldn't put together his vision in a very coherent way at the start. But in just a couple of weeks, a couple of practices, I mean, with Sequoia and Roloff and other people, he was just aces, man. And now he's a juggernaut. So Drew's a perfect example of somebody who started and maybe wasn't exactly a great presenter, and now is tremendous.
So your advice is to find a coach?
Absolutely. Find a coach and focus in on that issue. I mean, I like to, just in my own personal career, I look at what I'm weakest at. I make a list sometimes. I've done it many times. Like, this is what I'm great at. This is what I'm good at. This is what I'm okay at. This is what I'm bad at. And whatever I'm bad at, I take it and I say, you know what? I'm going to focus on that for a little while and try to make that something I'm good at, right? So maybe I'm not good at design or marketing, or maybe I'm not good at whatever the case may be. Coaching people, whatever. Getting ideas out of people, right? That was something I was not good at. Like, it was always my idea, right? Here's my ideas, go. And then I said, you know what, let me try to get some ideation going inside my companies. And I started doing ideation sessions with people. And I read up on ideation. I hosted ideation sessions, and I made people feel like their ideas mattered and that their ideas were as important as mine. In some cases, they're not. But at least I made people feel that way. And you know what, in some cases, they were better than mine. In a lot of cases, they were better than mine. Nobody's got like nobody's got that market cornered on ideas. Not that ideas are all that important anyway. Execution's what matters. But the point is, you have to examine yourself and be massively self-aware as an entrepreneur, and then take that self-awareness and put it to work. I'm going to get Jerry Colonna as a coach. I'm a very successful guy. And I'm like, you know what? These people are all going to Jerry Colonna and getting coached. I feel like I'm at a disadvantage. Why don't I have a coach? I can get a coach. So I'm like, Jerry, maybe you should coach me. He's like, well, maybe you should coach me. I'm like, coach me. He's like, okay, I'll coach you. So maybe Jerry's going to coach me. I mean, he's in a different city, but I would love to have a coach. I mean, the problem is I need to have a coach who is somebody I really respect. Like somebody I feel like I learn a lot from, and I don't know.
Well, you just said Jerry. I assume you can learn from him.
Oh, absolutely, Jerry. Yeah. I mean, it's very hard. I don't know how you qualify a coach. And I'll be totally honest. A lot of the people I meet at like events who take out their business cards are like, "Hi, I'm a coach," and I'm like, "You're a loser." I can just tell from talking to you for 10 minutes. Like, you're not anybody who should be giving advice. Like, they're failed entrepreneurs. A lot of times, I see people who have failed entrepreneurs become coaches, or they start accelerators.
So if you're looking for a coach,
you need to examine the track record. You need to talk to who and figure out who else they're coaching. Because when I saw who Jerry Colonna was coaching, I was like, oh, he's coaching winners. And those winners are staying with him year after year. Or like Mark Pincus was publicly talking about he had a coach, this woman who is just extraordinary. And then like 3 or 4 other people use her as a coach. And she comes in and she just like talks you through stuff. And so when I see like that Mark Pincus or Jerry Colonna coaching this other person, like, okay, yeah, the clients speak. Who are the clients? And if it's a person who's a failed entrepreneur giving coaching advice to a failed entrepreneur or a struggling entrepreneur, that's the blind leading the blind. They're just going to go off a cliff. I've seen this in accelerators. There are some accelerators, and I tell people, before you give 6% away, make sure you check the track record. I mean, if you look at Paul Graham's track record or David Cohen's track record, these guys are winners. Easily give them 6% of your company. But if you're going to another accelerator, I'm not going to start naming names, and you look at the track record, and the track record is like, this person hasn't done anything interesting in 20 years. And when they did something interesting, it might have been some, IPO leverage buyout with Michael Milken or Boski or something. Like, doesn't really count. Not applicable. You have to investigate the people you're going to engage for advice. All right. This has been a great program. No more questions? I can take one more.
That's all we got.
All right, very good. This has been a great episode. And Kieran, feel free to chop these up and put them at the end of the interviews I did last week with some of the launch companies, et cetera, if they need to fill in 10 minutes.
Okay, great.
All right. It's been great answering questions and discussing startup success. I like the game a lot, Kieran. That was very good, very well produced. Oh, and by the way, we need I'm looking possibly to have an executive producer for the show who has 5 years or more in radio to do things like Kieran just did with this wonderful game we played that is entertaining for you, the audience, and informative. We need a little bit more thought and production. We have the quality of the production down. Brandis has locked that down. We got great guests. We got a decent host. We got fantastic sponsors. It's a bit of a machine right now, to be totally honest. What we do need, though, is somebody who can teach us, right? Talking about leveling up. We don't know what the hell we're doing here. We're making this ish up as we go. I learned this new term, ish. You know this, Kieran?
I did not.
Ish is another way of saying sugar.
Oh, very clever.
It's a big in the hip hop community. Anyway, I read Media Takeout, and they say, "What is this ish?" Anyway, this ish, we want to make this ish better.
We will make this ish better.
We want to make this ish better. And let me tell you, that ish that you did, Kieran, with the play a clip, and I try to intercept the answer, it made me look really stupid, which I think is really entertaining for the audience. And
But you still said some interesting things. They have value.
I added value, but I do think that those kind of games that put me on the spot, people like that. It's interesting because they like to see their hero get knocked down a little bit, or they just like to see me competitive or trying to figure something out. I love that kind of stuff. I love games.
You love to get in somebody's head.
I like that. I always liked Guess the Fake Startup, right? We haven't done that in a while, and the Ask Jasons are great. We have to really... So anyway, if you know somebody who has produced for 5 years or more in talk radio specifically, so I don't want...
You don't want a TV news producer?
I don't think I want a TV news because, that's like the TV news is like a race to stupidity and Paris Hilton and Lindsay Lohan nonsense and stupidity. We don't want that. What I want is somebody who worked on The Stern Show or Rush Limbaugh or NPR or PRI or Young Turks, or somebody who really gets working with an audience that is passionate and preparing them to get creating packages and content and contests and games and information that is entertaining and educational. So that's what we're looking for. If it's you or if you know somebody, tell them, quit your job, come work for JCal. That's it.
Based
Jason,
in LA.
Based in LA only, Culver City, which is a great life. Unless you're in Boulder, which is frankly a better life. It's like people go New York, LA, Arizona, Boulder, Kauai. That's the order of checking out in your life. You can actually tell how much relaxation and joy and like quality of life you want to
You're
have.
only on step 2.
We're on step 2, Kieran. You took a little detour. You went to the.
I've been in Europe.
You went to Amsterdam, right?
That's
Where were you,
correct.
Amsterdam?
I was in Amsterdam.
Well, that's actually Amsterdam. I would say is the equivalent of Boulder. It's the same amount of weed being smoked there. All right, listen. This has been a great episode. Thanks to me and my great answers, and Kieran, her great production, Brandis and her flawless production. I love you, Brandis. You do such a great job. And Demont, great job on selling the ads. And Crew, thank you very much. And Ben, who is watching the front door right now, very good. Ben, don't make me. I walked in on Ben. He's such a good kid. And he was checking out ESPN. Poor guy. That's the worst. When your boss comes by and you're reading Reddit, and he's reading, and I said, Ben, don't make my one impression of you that you're sitting around when I'm paying you and you're reading sports all day. And he looked at me like, I said, I'm joking. I check the sports scores too. All right, we'll see you all next time on This Week in Startups. Bye-bye.